Hello and welcome to Security Scan. I am Vishal Dahiya, and this week we will take up the issue of artificial intelligence and the Indian Armed Forces. Amidst the global race to develop weapons and surveillance systems powered by artificial intelligence, India has also decided to introduce AI in its defense forces. Work has begun on an ambitious defense project to enhance the operational preparedness of the armed forces by incorporating artificial intelligence in various ways, such as equipping them with unmanned tanks, vessels, aerial vehicles, and robotic weaponry. This project would be implemented in a partnership model between the armed forces and the private sector. A multi-stakeholder task force was constituted in February this year to formulate a concrete strategy and framework for use of artificial intelligence for national security and defense forces. This 17-member task force, which has representatives from the defense forces, ISRO, DRDO and industry players, is expected to submit its report by the end of next month. Major powers like China and United States of America are aggressively competing with each other to secure a pole position in the field of artificial intelligence. In India, as of now, DRDO has a laboratory specifically dedicated to artificial intelligence, which is known as Center for Artificial Intelligence and Robotics. Seminal research is being done at the facility on various aspects of artificial intelligence. So what are the various aspects of applying AI to optimize the functioning of Indian armed forces in the battlefield and improve its operational preparedness? And how can this be achieved in the near future? For a detailed discussion on this, we have a distinguished panel of guests in the studio. Let me start by introducing them to you, and beginning with the retired Group Captain Ajay Lele, Senior Fellow from IDSA. We also have with us retired Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma, Chairman of Midcareer Advisory Services. And we also have with us retired Brigadier Rahul K. Bhonsle. He is Director of Security Risk Asia. Welcome all of you to Rajya Sabha Television Studio, sir. Let me begin with you, Captain Lele. Let's try and understand. Artificial intelligence has been talked about in the recent past quite a lot, and its implementation in the defense forces or the armed forces as well. What are we looking at exactly when we say that artificial intelligence can be effectively utilized in the defense sector?
I think one has to slightly go back to the history. Artificial intelligence is not a new term as it has been thought of by many people. The entire research on artificial intelligence started way back in 1956 onwards. Since then, artificial intelligence in some form or other is there in our daily lives. Just to give you a simple example, one can say that when I receive an email and a part of an email goes to the spam, that means somebody has read that email and decided that this is not a correct mail which I should address to. That means there is artificial intelligence which is involved into it. Now the problem is how to put this artificial intelligence into your defense architecture. Right now, if you see, the major research for many years has started, and the major research on artificial intelligence has been into civilian sector. Now people are trying to juxtapose the knowledge which has been gained on artificial intelligence into various civilian fields onto military fields. As far as military fields are concerned, one should not get an idea that when you are looking at artificial intelligence, that means it is going to replace the existing system. It is just an addition to the existing system. So you will have an aircraft, the aircraft could be replaced by a robotic craft. So that's the way the artificial intelligence is going to decide. Artificial intelligence, if you see, US has been using artificial intelligence into theaters of Iraq as well as in Afghanistan also. Recently they had come out with something known as a big dog. It is a mule which has been created. The mule can think on its own which direction to go, how much amount of a weight it can carry, so on and so forth. So there are certain amount of systems which are already been put in place as far as artificial intelligence are concerned. The systems are in all three spheres, one can say. You got artificial intelligence, like I might have mentioned, for a mule, it is there on the ground. Then you got artificial intelligence definitely when you are talking of robotic crafts or drones, it is out in the skies, as well as you got certain systems which are related with artificial intelligence which have been operating ocean also. So now India is looking at all these three aspects of armed forces in a holistic fashion and trying to see where they can use artificial intelligence.
Okay, let's bring in Lieutenant General Sudhir Sharma here. General Sharma, if we look at India's capabilities and India's requirements as well, what is the gap here when we are looking at it right now at the beginning? And how do you believe it will be more beneficial to us?
Okay, let me start at the very beginning again, like Captain Lele started, that artificial intelligence is the new frontier of technology. In fact, some people say it's the final frontier of technology. Now, as far as India is concerned, with we are an IT powerhouse, and therefore there's a lot of intellectual capital available in our country to be able to leapfrog and quickly catch up where the countries are going. Lots of armies of the world, whether it's Russia, US and China, don't give out in detail where they're going because they're fairly confidential equipment. Similarly, Indian Army also, or Indian Defence Forces would not like to put on the table where we have reached. The gap is there, but that gap is bridgeable. And that's the point I'm to make. And to add on to what he's saying is that what we're looking at is that we have got the automated system from automation to autonomous. And that is the path that people want to take. And by autonomous, we mean ability of a weapon platform to firstly discern a target by surveillance means, then identify the target properly and prioritize it, allocate a weapon to it, and without referring to a human being, fire a weapon and destroy the target.
Okay.
That is where the frontier at which artificial intelligence is going. From starting from, like you said, using computer intelligence to do so, till a stage will come when the human interface with that will reduce significantly. In fact, at some point of time, it may totally disappear.
Okay.
This is where other countries of the world are going, and we in India also have to look for getting that kind of space.
Okay, we have to look forward, and this is an overall view. Let's bring in Brigadier Bhosle now here and try and understand. Let's move into the specifics now, Brigadier Bhosle. How would you identify specific areas where you would believe that artificial intelligence in Indian armed forces would cater to our immediate needs, and what would those immediate needs would be?
Absolutely. So you see, when we are looking at the Indian Armed Forces, the first thing you want is the information about the enemy. That is acquisition of information.
Okay.
And in this, artificial intelligence can really help you a lot, because not only will it be able to acquire the information, we got the surveillance devices which are acquiring the information, but there is what we today called information overload. Now, from that information overload, how are you getting the actual information which is required by a war fighter, let's say at the formation level, or even let's say a fighter pilot who's flying the aircraft? He wants the actionable information or intelligence. Today, the information overload, the human capabilities are limited.
Okay.
So for artificial intelligence, once we have identified from those nuggets what is required by let's say a combat fighter pilot who's facing let's say on the other side and the enemy fighter aircraft, he will be able to identify exactly what, through the maze, identify what are the essential elements of information and converting that information into intelligence, which so far only the human brain can do it. I mean, no other system. We can talk only of robotics and all. Robotics are pre-programmed. They are not able to discern what is exactly to be done. But when you are injecting artificial intelligence, that is the time when this whatever you are getting on your screen will be okay. These are the 7 targets. Out of the 7 targets, you have to engage target number 1, which is the most important and most dangerous. I think that is the first area where I find that you will be very, very useful for in armed forces.
Okay.
Because this is a dilemma we are facing on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, so the processing of crucial information at that crucial stage. Captain Lele, moving a step further, apart from identifying the areas and specifics, one of the areas which have been talked about and written by several experts as well, that when it comes to India, we have, border areas which have tough terrains, and we have soldiers deployed there just to go ahead and guard and man the borders and all that. These are the areas where we can utilize the unmanned vehicles maybe, or the other forms of artificial intelligence in an effective way. So is this also one crucial aspect which needs to be taken into context here while pushing in for artificial intelligence?
Definitely. I think one has to look at artificial intelligence from a military perspective, both at tactical level as well as a strategic level. At strategic level, like General had said, that when we are talking of autonomous weapons, basically your entire missile defense system, the systems which are commonly known nowadays, the THAAD system which US is supposed to deploy into South Korea and other places, those are the systems which are totally autonomous systems. They will take a decision on their own if there is an incoming nuclear weapon, and they will decide to ensure that to strike that weapon. As far as a tactical level is concerned, which you are talking about, the border fencing, particularly you got cameras over there. The cameras are just picking up information. But now those cameras and the systems over there are made intelligent, so that based on that information they can take a decision.
Okay.
So suppose there is some incoming threat and the camera or the weapon system over there understands that this is an incoming threat. So definitely they are going to make an attack onto it, or just try to neutralize that threat based on whatever parameters which have been fed to them. So at a tactical level, artificial intelligence could be used for the border fencing and other things, and at a strategic level it could be used for major weapon systems.
Okay, so this is these are the areas, broadly speaking. But General Sharma, when we talk about implementing this thing practically in ensuring that this reaches the armed forces as well, what the project we are talking about and which is in the domain right now and being discussed is that there is going to be a partnership model between the armed forces and the private industry players as well. So how do you believe this can move ahead?
See, the complete artificial intelligence is based upon a software design. The algorithm which have to be created for the weapon system to operate will need to be created by the private industry.
Okay.
And the defense forces give you the data for it, because huge amount of data is required to be processed from the historical perspective, what institutional memory we've got. We know exactly what are the weapon systems of the enemy, what is the characteristic. We've got to feed all that into the system, and using that, algorithms are created to be able to intelligently decide what is happening. So the partnership is very important, because we provide the complete military information which has to be coded now by some people, and then we test them again by wargaming the system that it is working properly. Because it's possible that artificial intelligence may not be able to do what is required to be done, and therefore you'll need to do a lot of simulation of that with the Army, Air Force and Navy, with the civilian counterparts, then refining it and becoming better and better. So that kind of handshake will be very important for us to develop a state-of-the-art artificial intelligence system. It's going to be a lot of trial and error, because it's a very, very virgin territory, in fact, very infant at the moment. And as we go forward, because the data amount is huge, colossal amount of data, and there is not enough, background information available which can replicate it, because unless you have tactical wars, India's got a lot of experience, so therefore we can share that data with them and then build upon them and build and create. That's how it will get created over a period of time.
Okay, and there is another dimension as well. Let me bring in Brigadier Bhonsle here, and that dimension is the public sector companies and the public sector enterprises, specifically organizations like DRDO. There have been lots of pulls and pushes when it comes to DRDO developing specific weapon systems, and we have had instances in the past wherein one or the other wing of the Indian Armed Forces had complained about its utilization or maybe its quality as well. So how effectively can we amalgamate these private players as well as public sector players to ensure that we achieve what we are trying to achieve, because others are rushing at a greater speed than we are right now?
Absolutely. You see, you raised a very important issue, because the trust between the armed forces and the DRDO, unfortunately, for whatever reason, I've been also in the service, and that time the trust is, I would say, missing or very low. Now, how do we build that up? I think we have to follow the model of the Guided Missile Development Program, which Dr. Abdul Kalam, our former president and head of DRDO, did. So since AI, artificial intelligence, is applicable in all weapon systems, all formats, strategic level has brought out, tactical level has brought out. So this is a very wide program. Now, if you have a similar program for the artificial intelligence, like you have the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program. So you develop a artificial intelligence program for the defense forces, and you work it on this program basis. And that is the way I think DRDO has delivered. They have delivered in your strategic missiles. They may not have delivered in the various combat systems. So to integrate that, I think what model is to be required to be done, since it involves all the systems, all weapon systems, all strategic, tactical, you have to have a model which is closely resembling the Integrated Guided Missile Development Program. I would suggest that government should immediately go in for a artificial intelligence development program for the armed forces, or whatever you name it. I mean, that's the whole theme we are talking about. Because you see what China has done. Chinese have got a complete export zone, artificial intelligence zone. That's a huge complex. Now, what happens is, here you get everybody who's looking at artificial intelligence, whether it is a military person or the technical or the software developers, they are under one tent. Now, once you get them all under one tent, you can imagine the type of productivity that can be given.
Okay.
Whereas today, what is if you have somebody sitting in Bangalore, somebody sitting on the borders, or somebody sitting anywhere, you are not going to develop that program in such a way. So I would strongly say that we must have something like the IGM DeepE model, same for the artificial intelligence for the services.
Very good point. The amount of cooperation required by the technological partners is so immense that we need to involve everybody in it. DRD alone will not be handle it. To give you an example, a country like America, which is technologically so advanced, is put one of the programs called Operation Raven to Google to develop for them the complete system for it. In fact, if you are aware, Google people protested and said we will not be part of the artificial intelligence program because it is very destructive and they don't want to be part of it. But they outsourced the complete thing to Google itself because the requirement was so immense to build their system for Syria with the fighting for it. So I think we'll need to take into account all the parameters of all the industries and all people to put it together if you have to build a secure and a high-tech artificial intelligence system.
Okay,
That's what
Captain Lele, your views on this entire policy thing and how to move ahead?
I think I broadly agree with the policy thing over here. One has to have a public-private partnership over here. As it has been rightly pointed out that Indian Armed Forces per se do not have the extreme sort of expertise as far as software is concerned. Because when you are talking of artificial intelligence, you are going to talk of neural networks till the deep data. So there is a huge amount of a requirement of a generation of a data and manipulation of a data in real-time business. When you are talking of artificial intelligence, right from your C4 ISR systems to robotics, big data, so there are so many areas which will be there. So there is a requirement of a multi-stakeholder model which has been formed. You got to have an Atomic Energy Commission over here. Your strategic systems also need to be engaged by having artificial intelligence sort of a systems. You need to have Department of Space over here. So all these big departments who are going to make a difference subsequently, because today's warfare is a network-centric warfare. So when you're operating into an entire network-centric zone, you require all those things. And from a policy level also, you need to engage many other or you got to look at many other factors. There are going to be issues related with what is the moral thing. Like it has been pointed out that the scientific community is against artificial intelligence in some sense.
That's the next point, which...
So there will be issues related to morality.
Okay.
So these are the important issues one has to look at.
Okay. Now that you raised that point, the issue of ethics, and I'll begin with the General Sharma here. General Sharma, there's been a lot of different views which have come about specifically on the lethal autonomous weapon systems, that is LAWS laws. In common parlance, if you look at the kind of views which are coming in, specifically from an ethical point of view, then what's your viewpoint on that? Exactly, is it ethical to go ahead with lethal systems, weapon systems like this?
See, war fighting is a very complex business, and nations decide to go to war. I agree, it's going to be a very, very difficult dilemma how to do that. In fact, in April, just last month, Geneva, there has been a UN conference banning laws. They want to totally eliminate autonomous weapons, but they also banned a lot of cyber warfare, and people are still doing it. So when nations are able to do that, I think it will be a very big ethical dilemma. My concern is human rights has become such a central focus for warfare in the past. How do you regulate robotic warfare, or when weapons of war, all weapons of war are actually robotics, and how do you go against them? The danger of a conflict taking place by a glitch or by a manufactured glitch is very much. Today, if you can hack the complete financial system, what if some hacks into your complete autonomous weapon system, and then somebody says, I'm sorry, we fired the weapon and 1,000 people died, and somebody says, maybe you did it deliberately. So the whole artificial intelligence, ethical, moral area is something which needs to be debated. I hope all mature countries sit together and come to a common framework. It's a very, very grey area, and we need to really apply our mind, and it's a big dilemma.
Okay, but there is the other side to this as well, and the argument from the other side is that the utilization of artificial intelligence in weapon systems, and specifically lethal weapon systems, would also get rid of the moral judgment which a human at the weapon might be involved in, and the related collateral damage. What's your viewpoint, Brigadier Bhosle?
You see, the moral judgment is always there whenever you're fighting a war. Even a human being can commit an error. That is first point. Second point is this artificial system is going to commit an error by depending on the type of programming you are fed into it earlier. So if they are now the software developer who's there, he's the one who has to be monitored, because he should be the one who should be doing the right programming for it to discern the right type of target. It should not, he should not be programmed in such a way that the wrong target is, the fire is directed at the wrong target.
Okay.
So it is the software developer who's becoming soldier now. And that's where the Google people are objecting to that, because if I am a sort of a humanist, or I am not intended to this soldiering type of warfare, then definitely I would object to that and I'll get out of the system. But let me remind you, even when the rifle was developed, or the musket was developed, people had objection to that. But today everybody is every soldier is having a rifle, or your policeman is having a rifle. So how you use it, that is more important than trying to say object. And as far as the international system goes, our experience is very clear. There is not going to be any stopping the artificial intelligence from getting into the warfare.
Okay.
Now, so that is where we stand. So we have to take a realist position. And by no instance I want to say that artificial systems can autonomously try to destruct. Though there in the movies we have seen the robots, coming and destroying the creator. So we have to program them correctly. I think the software developer is the main person here who's going to decide how the robot behaves.
Okay,
that's the one.
Captain Lilly, so does it mean that let's not blame the technology? Let's rather try and look at how we are trying to use the technology.
I think one has to move around that, because like in cyber domain, attributability is going to be the major factor. If today somebody says that software engineer is responsible for it, it will become so difficult if some problem comes up of a war crime or something to attribute a particular thing to a particular country or to a particular system. Like the systems which have been put by US into the battlefield, they have perforce removed those systems also. Because they have understood that there is a dilemma whether you allow machine to kill a man.
Okay.
So that dilemma is going to be there. Like it was brought out as far as laws are also concerned, there are issues of IHL, International Humanitarian Law, and it's a very big issue. So there will be people who belong to the disarmament community, so-called disarmament ayatollahs, they will come heavily. But like we have seen in case of laser weapons, like blinding weapons are banned. So there could be certain amount of a debate, which is a sensible debate, and certain amount of a legal position could be taken by the countries. Certain amount of a rules, regulations, or at least a code of conduct could be developed. Then only one can say confidently that one can go ahead with these systems.
Okay.
Otherwise, blindly putting these systems may not help.
Okay.
One more thing. I somehow feel that it may not be possible to control it. The reason is that, like Mr. Elon Musk, who is the biggest exponent of technology, he is totally against artificial intelligence. He says it's going to be out of control. My point being that the development of software, as Brigadier Bhosle brought out, the aim of artificial intelligence is to create a software which replicates itself and becomes intelligent, and then does not follow a dogmatic rule process like a computed problem where you could replicate. In artificial intelligence, it will go beyond that realm. And software will decide on its own and create itself intelligence for it to do the weapon system. So it's going to be very difficult to control it, and attributability is going to be very tough. And we are in a very difficult area, and therefore people like Elon Musk are saying don't do it. Don't even just ban it totally. And it's difficult to ban. So the Pandora's box is open, the genie is out of the box. I don't think it can be controlled anymore. We will try our best to bring it within some framework like the Captain brought out, but I find it very difficult to believe it will happen. So we are in for very, very rough times, and hopefully good sense will prevail and we'll be able to do it in some form or the other.
Okay, going back to the original question, and that was the implementation of artificial intelligence in Indian Armed Forces. How do you see the future here?
I think there is a good amount of a future, but one should not jump the gun also just because artificial intelligence is there. Tomorrow all our systems are going to be intelligent. The intelligence already exists. You want to add artificial intelligence to it essentially because there is a humongous amount of a data, and in real time you are not able to really process that data. So you want somebody to process a data and to give a correct input to a soldier on ground. So to my mind, artificial intelligence, instead of getting into lethal systems, should remain restricted to where we call that C4 ISR and all those capabilities, where you are using data, you are using artificial intelligence for the purposes of intelligence gathering. So there are 2 to 3 areas where I think Indian Armed Forces should concentrate first, instead of directly getting into so-called lethal systems, and try to see that artificial intelligence becomes very successful and we are getting good results out of it. So one should run pilot models onto 2 to 3 areas and then subsequently take a call.
Okay, Brigadier Bhosle?
I think we have a long way to go. Like you talked about the borders. Now what does artificial intelligence system want? Your entire border has to be mapped, and the entire border has to be converted to bits and bytes and then fed into the system. So it's a huge challenge. And I think we have to really get going and invest a huge amount of money if we want to get anywhere into this whole game. Otherwise, we'll be left far behind, and then we'll be running trying to catch up with this thing. And as far as the international control system, we have a nuclear model. In the nuclear model, there are few countries who have restricted the sort of technologies related to the nuclear. Similar model can be developed. So before the countries who are in the advanced stage, they try to restrict us. I think we must get into this as quickly. But armed forces, I think, we've got a long way to go, and we must, go full throttle. Otherwise, we'll be left behind.
Okay, long way to go. General Sharma, concluding comments from you, please.
Yeah, I would like to say that to carry on from my point, the easiest way to go through is for surveillance, unarmed aerial vehicles, and that will be the first place artificial intelligence will take place. Then logistics, another area we can look forward to do so. And third will be the lethality of weapons and autonomous weapons to come into board, and then we'll build upon it incrementally. My final comments are that artificial intelligence is here to stay. I think it's the final frontier, in some places the last frontier, and we will have to cope with it. And we as a nation, which lives in a very difficult geography, cannot ignore it, and we should harness all the powers of the forces and our intellectual and IT people to build a very viable and a very credible AI system which can support the defense forces and our national power for the future.
Okay, thank you so much. So, as our panelists and guests are pointing out, that when it comes to usage of artificial intelligence in Indian armed forces, there are a plethora of opportunities, and we should take it one by one, go step by step, but also go full throttle and before we start doing the catch-up game with others, that is the other global players working on these artificial intelligence systems. We'll come back again next week with a different topic and different set of guests. Till then, keep watching Rajya Sabha Television.